Well, one local woman suddenly found some of her favorite foods were off limits after a diagnosis, so she decided to recreate them in a way that allowed her to enjoy them again, and that led Vanessa Phillips to create her company. It's called Feelgood Foods.
I love the name. It's a frozen food company that makes your favorite snack foods ready to eat, and more importantly, gluten-free.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Everybody can have fun. And today we're shining the spotlight on Vanessa, our Entrepreneur Spotlight series, The Next Victim. Just kidding. Welcome to your company. It's so great to have you. I love your story.
Thank you.
You know, because you grew up in the food industry. Free Vince. Big deal.
I did.
Yes, we love it.
So, you know, that must have been a tough moment of realization that you couldn't eat some of these childhood life favorites that you were used to, you know.
A mozzarella
getting
stick.
to have a mozzarella stick, exactly. So was that kind of, what was that like for you? How did you take that diagnosis and land here?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't live in the moment of no for very long, right? So I grew up loving food. My family owned restaurants. My dad owned bagel stores and Chinese restaurants. So I had early exposure to gluten for sure. And when I became a teenager, I started having a ton of symptoms that were really unexplained. And it was hard for me to figure out what the culprit was. But I had joint pain, fatigue, brain fog. And then when I was 20, I was diagnosed with celiac disease, and I learned very quickly that I had to give up like all of my favorite foods and go on a gluten-free diet. And, you know, I definitely had like a pity party for about 24 hours.
Yeah. You're allowed.
Totally. I was like, this is going to be tough. And then I was like, okay, let's go. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And I quickly started experimenting with ways where I could create gluten-free versions of my favorite food, and my destiny became like very clear.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting because my grandmother was celiac, and when she first got diagnosed, she's like, I can't eat pasta. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And at that time, there weren't a lot of gluten-free pastas, I'm sure you know, that tasted good or tasted like the original.
Well, that's
right?
the key, exactly.
And
It
so
did
how
not
did you
taste good, yeah. It was hard. I had to order like all of my food online. Everything tasted like cardboard.
Right.
It was really challenging, but it was also motivating for me, right?
To figure it out.
I knew that I wasn't alone, and I was just very determined to figure out how to create food that didn't taste like cardboard.
Right.
And luckily I did, and I created Feelgood Foods.
How long did it take for you to get there? I'm sure it was a lot of trial and error.
It was a lot of trial and error, and also, I mean, I set the bar pretty high, right? So like, we never wanted to be a Me Too company. So all of the gluten-free foods that we offer today are first, and it was a lot of R&D. Our first product was gluten-free pot stickers because that was what I missed most, eating Chinese food all the time at my dad's restaurants. I, you know, was not going to give up a pot sticker, but making a gluten-free pot sticker is really challenging. So yeah, there were a lot of iterations that came with it.
How'd you kind of figure it? So you figured it out just by doing it again, and not giving up.
Correct.
Okay, what was after the pot sticker? Was it a mozzarella stick?
Egg rolls.
Egg
Oh,
rolls,
so you
yeah.
stuck in the Chinese. Okay, gotcha.
I did, yeah. I mean, so the brand Feelgood Foods, I knew would evolve to include all of my childhood favorites, include foods that are super indulgent but made in a better-for-you version. I started very specific with like, okay, what do I miss? So my early childhood memories were pot stickers, egg rolls, and then it just went on and on from there. And mozzarella sticks was definitely a childhood favorite as well. That came years later after the pot stickers and egg rolls.
I love it.
How did your family factor into this? Being from a family of restaurateurs, what was their support like through this process?
They were very supportive. Obviously, they're still very supportive. You know, nobody else in my family has celiac disease.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, I think, a learning curve for them as well to learn about gluten-free. My dad, he allowed me very early on to go into all of his restaurants and develop gluten-free menus.
I love it.
And we were kind of like gluten-free pioneers at the time. No restaurants were offering
year was
gluten.
this?
I was diagnosed with celiac in 2004.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
that's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
And there was definitely some resistance, you know, from not him, but just the staff in the restaurants and the chefs, because they didn't really understand what gluten was at the time. And you know, it took some time for us to all figure it out. But today, pretty much all of my father's restaurants have gluten-free menus.
Well, thank you.
Thank you to him.
Because there's still restaurants when you say gluten-free, they're like, huh?
Right.
And I'm like, wait, what are you
That's
talking
not the
about?
world we live in anymore. You know,
Correct.
change is inevitable.
Yeah.
So you now have the successful business. you mentioned it was a lot of R&D, research and development.
R&D.
I did know what that meant. Trial and error, and just figuring it out because you knew what the original tasted like, and you knew you needed to make a product that was on par.
Yes.
You dig in. I have to ask you.
These are soup dumplings. It's our newest innovation.
Can I just use my hand or no?
Sure, it is.
Why don't you bring the whole plate? Okay. We need a bib.
So if you like a traditional soup dumpling, you're gonna love these. It's a gluten-free twist. The wrapper is a lot lighter. It's made from
There's an explosion
rice
in your mouth.
flour.
That's unbelievable.
Thanks.
Anyway, I wanted to ask you.
With the mouth full now.
As an entrepreneur.
I thought you were going to ask the question before you took a bite.
I'm going to be a gavon, and that's it. Well, how do you define success?
So it's, of course I have these pinch me moments where I see our foods on grocery stores all over the country and I'm like, wow, this is really awesome how far we've come. But the success for me is like every day hearing from our consumers and seeing how we've reached so many people and touched their lives, whether it's like a mom emailing me saying, I have a kid with food allergies and oftentimes my child feels really left out and isolated, and because of your food, my child feels included again. And like those are the moments that really motivate me more than even seeing our product on supermarket shelves, because for me, Feelgood Foods is so personal.
Yeah.
And to see it reach so many people's homes is just such a feel-good
moment. I love
moment.
your story, and here's what I love more about the product. If you didn't tell me that wasn't gluten-free, you would never know. And that's the key of a good product.
You know what? You get these for Rose.
I'm going to get this whole thing. Grandma Rose, we got something for you. We got Chinese food.
Right now. Look at Rose. We got you. Don't worry. Dan's bringing lunch. Vanessa, thank you so much.
Thank you. And one other thing, if you live in New York City, we are doing a gluten-free pop-up on May 3rd, open to the public, free for everyone. It will have all of our gluten-free favorites. It's in New York City. You can visit our Instagram, Feelgood Foods. We're also going to be giving a giveaway, flying 2 people to New York to attend, hotel, airfare. So yeah, if you live in New York City, though, definitely check it out.
All right, Rose, get your sneakers on.
Tell her she's got to be ready for a field trip.
43rd and 9th,
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Lovely to meet you.
Excellent. So good. So nice meeting you.